Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm so glad to be here on this Thanksgiving week. It is Tuesday, and I'm glad that you are taking time out of your busy schedule to watch us on Facebook Live and on YouTube. And on the show, I have got a frequent guest of mine, and I'm excited that he is joining the show. A longtime guest of the Sports Beat, just ready to talk everything football related. And also, high school basketball season is in the air. I'm actually headed to call a high school basketball game myself. And so I have great privilege to welcome to the show Gabe Reynolds. He is the head basketball coach for the girls Ezell-Harding. Gabe, welcome to the show.
Hey, Richard, how you doing? Thanks for having me. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
I appreciate that, Gabe. Well, you are right into basketball season as you're getting ready. Have you played any regular season games yet?
Yes, we played 2 games last week. We're currently sitting at 1-1, and we have a game tonight at Columbia Academy, which is a regional opponent. So we dropped the season opener. We bounced back on Thursday night, and we're looking to continue the win streak with our game tonight at Columbia Academy.
So you have kept yourself busy, and I know that all that hard work is going to pay off. Good luck this upcoming season. But Gabe, I've had you on the show before just talking sports. I mean, I know we've had a busy weekend of high school football, college football, the NFL. I mean, you're a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. They got a big win over Carolina. Alabama had no problem against Chattanooga. I mean, this is the Iron Bowl week. We're going to start with Alabama because you're an Alabama fan. I've always said that Alabama could run the table. They are the biggest threat to Georgia. They will play Georgia in 2 weeks. But you do have the Iron Bowl. Crazy things have happened on the plains. Just look at the last couple of years. And we are approaching the 10-year anniversary of the Kick Six. I'm not trying to bring back some painful memories for you, Gabe, but when you think of the Iron Bowl, I know that living in Alabama, it's like the Super Bowl. I mean, everybody is picking sides. But you being from Nashville, being a fan of Alabama, what does the Iron Bowl mean to you?
It's just a good old-fashioned rivalry to me. You get to Iron Bowl week, regardless of what's going on. Both teams just throw the records right out the window, and it's just good. It's just basically old-fashioned hate. You got the state divided, you got families divided, you got marriages divided, you got kids divided. Like you throw the records out, you just go play. I look at it this week the same way that I looked at Georgia's game last week against Tennessee. It's a trap game. Win or lose, you know you're still going to Atlanta, but you need to win this game because you're trying to leapfrog some people to get into the college football playoff. So you want to win this game, but you also don't want to have any ejections or penalties, crazy penalties that'll get players out for the Georgia game, and you don't want to have any injuries. But you're playing a road game in a hostile environment against your arch enemy, against a coach who has proven to have beaten you before, who they hired because he's beaten you before. So it's a lot of factors in this game right here. I think it's going to be a good game. It's Iron Bowl week. That's enough said. That's all you can do. You just line it up and you go play.
And Gabe, Auburn suffered an embarrassing loss at home to New Mexico State. I did not see this coming. I don't think any Auburn fans saw this coming. In fact, they were looking at the schedule thinking this was a cupcake. Well, guess what? New Mexico State is a good football team. They came into this game 8-3, and they punched Auburn in the mouth. Auburn could not stop them on defense. And even though it was 10-7 at the half, New Mexico State just They capitalized. Auburn punted the football away. New Mexico State scored a touchdown. I actually think that Auburn was overlooking New Mexico State, and they were focused on the Iron Bowl. I mean, that's my opinion, because Auburn's not supposed to lose to a New Mexico State on the Plains. This is history. I don't think they've ever lost to a non-Power 5 conference opponent at home ever. But do you think that Auburn was overlooking New Mexico State in lieu of the Iron Bowl?
I don't think they were overlooking them. It was supposed to have been a tune-up. It was a paid. You getting that team in so you could get some momentum going into it. But like you said, New Mexico State is just they're a well-coached team. They're a good team, and they came in and they did. Nobody gave them a chance, and they didn't have anything to lose. So you go into an SEC territory, and you're getting paid to come play, and you get a dub. Like that's just the cherry on top. But this is Hugh Freeze's first year. He doesn't have a lot of pieces. I'm sure next year Auburn is going to be up and in the thick of things in the SEC because there's no more divisions. I think they'll be in the middle of the pack, bottom of the top half of the SEC. But he's going to get them right, and they're going to be they'll be okay. This is just year one. He's playing with house money. He has nothing to lose right now. It doesn't look good that he lost to New Mexico State, but he's playing with house money.
And I am looking forward to that Iron Bowl. It's always fun when it's on the Plains, especially from a non-biased, non-Alabama, non-Auburn fan. I just enjoy watching the Iron Bowl because it's one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports. Gabe, moving on to some of the key top 25 matchups in college football. I'm not the type of person that I could go either way. I could root for chaos or I could root for chalk. If chalk were to happen, let's say Florida State beats Florida and they beat Louisville in the ACC championship. If Washington, they're going to beat Washington State in the Apple Cup. And if they beat Oregon in the Pac-12 title, you're going to have an undefeated Michigan or Ohio State because the winner of this game is going to win the Big Ten. You could end up having 3 undefeated teams, and then the winner of the SEC championship should win, even if it's a one-loss Alabama. They should automatically get in. But could it be possible if Georgia has one loss, they lose to Alabama, could Georgia be out of the equation, especially if the remaining teams are undefeated? And not to mention, Texas has one loss. You know that Texas is going to be ranked higher than Alabama if they win out. Are you rooting for chaos, or is it possible that chalk will happen and all the undefeated teams will be left standing at the end of the regular season?
I'm rooting for chaos. And just because here's the thing. We know Ohio State and Michigan are going to cancel each other out. We know Oregon and Washington right now sitting at 5 and 6. They're going to cancel each other out. Now, here's where the chaos theory comes into play. If Georgia loses to Alabama in the SEC championship game, how far down does Georgia fall? If Oregon avenges the regular season loss against Washington and win the Pac-12, does Washington fall completely out of the equation? If Florida State loses to Louisville, does Louisville leapfrog into the top 6? What you don't want to do is lose late. The only reason that TCU got in last year was because Tennessee lost to Georgia. Then Tennessee lost to South Carolina. Then you had another team lose. Even when TCU lost to Kansas State, they didn't fall too far. They fell. They stayed pat right where they were because of their strength of schedule. So Florida State right now, Florida State has to win the ACC because Clemson was down this year. Louisville is holding firm, but there's nothing over there. The Big Ten, truth be told, is really weak. So like, if Michigan beats Ohio State, what do you really have? Because the last two games that Michigan has played, they struggled on offense. If Texas wins the Big 12, the Texas jump high enough to get into the top 4. And if Bama, with the loss to Texas, but Texas wins out, if Bama beats Georgia, does Bama get in at number 4 and Texas get in at number 3? And that puts Michigan at number 1 or Ohio State at number 1. It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm rooting for the chaos theory because it gives you more talking points. Go back a few years ago when Notre Dame got in, and Notre Dame was like, everybody was like, why is Notre Dame in? And when they got in there, it was proven they shouldn't have been in there. I really don't think Florida State deserves to be in the top in the playoff with one loss. If they're undefeated, by all means. Washington, if they stay undefeated, yes, they deserve to be in there. But if they lose to Oregon, Oregon deserves to be in there because they avenged the loss and won the championship. I think this is going to be the one year that you're going to have a Big Ten champion, a SEC champion, a Pac-12 champion, and a Big 12 champion in the top 4. I don't think you're going to have I don't think you're going to get 2 teams from one conference this year. This is the one year that is going to be the one from each conference. And then next year, starting the 12-team playoff, it'll be a whole lot different.
Well, I cannot wait. One more thing that we're going to talk about before we move on to the NFL. Lincoln Riley. I mean, I'm shocked that he's not on the hot seat. UCLA defeated USC over the weekend, and all the talk is really from Dan Mullen. He said, are we sure we have the right coach that's on the hot seat? Because Chip Kelly's on the hot seat at UCLA. You know, they're about to go into the Big Ten, and UCLA wants to make a big splash, and they feel that Chip Kelly might not get the job done. But he was able to get the win over their arch rival. And I just don't know if Lincoln Riley is the type of coach that is going to get USC over the top and win a national championship, because their defense still needs help. You could do all you want. You could fire the defensive coordinator. You can come in and get a proven NFL defensive coordinator to establish the defense. I don't think it's working out. I think Lincoln Riley needs to be on the hot seat.
Riley will be on the hot seat next year because now we're going to see what Lincoln Riley can do without Caleb Williams. You know, he had Jalen, he had Hurts, he had Murray, he had Mayfield. Now you're going to see what he can do without Caleb. You're going to see what type of coach he really is. And if they don't fix the defense, you're really going to know, because what is the Big Ten known for? Big Ten is known for defense. Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa, they're known for defense, not so much offense. So you can't take a high-powered offense into the Big Ten next season and don't have a defense that's going to be able to pull its weight, because it's going to be ground and pound in the Big Ten. Now, if USC was going to the Big 12, they don't even know what a defense is over there, because it's nothing but video game numbers on that side. To me, that's why I think Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma and went to USC, because he's not the coach that could deal with that SEC grind, and he was going to get exposed in the SEC. But Chip Kelly, I think Chip Kelly has done all he could do in trying to replicate his success at Oregon with UCLA, because you're not getting the caliber of players to come to UCLA, because everybody's going across town to USC. I wouldn't say that Kelly is on the hot seat because he just won, but I think the powers that be at UCLA expected more. And with Lincoln Riley coming in and doing what he's doing and got USC talking, they're looking at what Dion is doing at Colorado. I think UCLA wants a big name coach that could come in and have a high powered offense to go along with their defense as they move conferences to the Big Ten as well. I've heard reports of Chip Kelly linked to either Mississippi State or Texas A&M, but I think everybody's going to wait and see what A&M does first. A&M gets their coach, and then everybody else fills in. I don't think Dan Mullen is a good fit personally for Texas A&M because of what he did at Florida and how that Florida fiasco went down. It's going to be too much pressure at A&M. I think Mullen would be best suited to go back to Mississippi State, where he has everything that he wants and more. And he was the only coach to take Mississippi State to number one in the nation back when they had Dak Prescott. So that's just my opinion on that right there. But I don't think Lincoln Riley should be on the hot seat this year, because next year he's either gonna get right or he's gonna get exposed.
All right, Gabe, let's switch gears and let's move to the National Football League, where your Dallas Cowboys, 4-1 after the 49ers loss. They just manhandled the Carolina Panthers 33-10. Their only loss was actually a pretty good loss. It was a 5-point loss, one possession game against the best team in the NFL with the best record, the Philadelphia Eagles. Do you feel that the Cowboys made the adjustments after the loss to the 49ers and all is well, or are they just beating up on really bad teams and they still got to worry about plugging in those holes on the defense? Leighton Vander Esch is out for the season. You have Trayvon Diggs that's out for the season. Have the Cowboys figured it out, or is there just too many good teams in the NFC that's ahead of them?
I think right now the Cowboys are just beating up on weaker opponents because when they on down the stretch, the teams that they're going to have to play for the to try to get into the playoffs, I think they're like 25-11. So they're winning the games they're supposed to win to keep the record where it is and to do what they're supposed to do. But they're going to have to figure it out defensively and offensively when they play Philly again, when they play New York again, and Washington. They just got to make sure that it's consistent. That's the thing with the Cowboys. They're consistently inconsistent when and you never know what's going to happen. They do all the talk in the media, and then when they show up to play the big games, they don't really back it up. So hard being a Cowboys fan because you don't know what team is going to come on any given day.
Well, they do play the Washington Commanders on Thanksgiving. First of all, I got to say, what a great slate of Thanksgiving games. You got the Lions, who are 8-2. They're playing the Packers. I know the teams they're playing are not very good, but you got two great teams playing on Thanksgiving. And the nightcap, you got the 49ers and the Seahawks. I know I'm excited about that. I'm really looking forward to this Thanksgiving lineup. And then you got the Seahawks taking on the Cowboys the following week. It seems like the Cowboys always play on that Thursday night after Thanksgiving. That way they don't have a short week. They kind of have a mini bye going into the following week because they will play the Eagles on Sunday night on December the 10th. I know that they're trying to get a bounce back and win, especially they play very well at home. I think that they beat the Eagles there. The Buffalo Bills are struggling. I think they could get the win there. I mean, I cannot wait for that Saturday night game between the Cowboys and the Detroit Lions on New Year's Eve, on New Year's December 30th. But let's talk about the former coach, Hall of Fame coach, two-time Super Bowl champion Jimmy Johnson. He finally gets inducted to the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor. Gabe, what took so long? I mean, did it seem like Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson finally reconciled their feud that's been going on for 30 years now?
I'm just glad. I don't know. I don't know what the pressure came in, but I'm glad it's resolved, man. College teammates, they've been together. You know, he got. You know, that was the first coach Jerry Jones hired when he took over the team. Regardless of how they left, I'm glad this has come to a resolution. Jimmy Johnson should have been in the Ring of Honor a long time ago. Well-deserved honor for a Hall of Fame coach. The Cowboys were already known, but to a different generation. Even with the players, Aikman, Emmett, Irvin, you know, it was they were introduced to a whole different generation. And you know, Jimmy Johnson left and went on to the Dolphins, and then to as a Fox NFL analyst to the Hall of Fame. This was the one thing that was missing, is the Ring of Honor, and I'm glad that people, either somebody got in Jerry Jones' ear and was like, "Hey, we got to do this. This should have been done long time ago," and I'm glad Jerry, you know, finally listened and made it happen.
All right, Gabe, you are a head basketball coach of the Ezell-Harding girls basketball team. You're in the start of your season. I know that we have college basketball going on. Let's talk about women's college basketball, because some of your players are going to play at the next level. What's going on at LSU? It seems like the media's blown it out of proportion. You got Angel Reese that did not play on the team. They lose to Colorado that first game, a huge upset. There was a lot of distractions in the offseason, some NIL deals. I mean, really, UConn gets upset. Iowa gets upset. Could this be the year that we could have parity in women's college basketball, or do you think all three of those teams will ride the ship, they'll be fine, and they'll end up in the Final Four like we all expect?
I mean, that's the beauty of college basketball as opposed to college football. If you take a loss early here and there, it doesn't doom you for anything. You know, you want to play these non-conference games to test your will and everything, because you could easily go out and play, you know, Tennessee State or Alcorn or Prairie View and just, you know, beat up on the little guys and don't do anything. But you do this to test yourself, to see where you stand, because you're using this to prepare for conference season, and then you use your conference season to prepare for March. As far as what's going on down at LSU, you know, I'm just like everybody else. I'm seeing what's going on. I'm hearing about it. But you know, from the outside looking in and being a head coach myself, nobody really knows what goes on inside the facility and inside of practice. You know, parents only see what's happening in the game. We don't see behind the scenes. We don't know what's going on in the locker room. When a coach says it's a coach's decision, it's just that. Like, I made a decision to to not start one of my starters tonight. That's, you know, I know the parents gonna come to me. Hey, it's a coach's decision. It's part of my team rules. It's part of my team philosophy. I'm gonna stick to it because I'm also sending a message to the rest of my team that I am in control. I'm firm, but I'm fair. If you break the rule, there's a consequences. You know, you're using, I think Kim Mulkey is doing no different than what Pat Summitt did when Candace Parker stayed out past curfew when she went back to Naperville, to Chicago, to play the game against DePaul, and she didn't start. She didn't play the entire first half, and Candace Parker's entire family was there. Did Candace Parker get mad? No. She knew she broke the rule. For every action, there's an equal and there's an equal and opposite reaction. You have to you have to deal with the consequence. So whatever's going on with the parents, that needs to stay. Well, in this age, it's going to get on social media, but the parents doing what they doing shouldn't impact what's going on the court. The NIL money, the fame, the magazines and all of that, you got to keep the main thing, and that's going out and winning games and trying to defend your NCAA title. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get back to the Final Four. But on the flip side, UConn losing to NC State, Iowa losing, Colorado beating LSU. Let's talk about what's going on in the SEC in Columbia, South Carolina, with what Dawn Staley got going on. She's 3-0, and she's hit the 100-point mark in all 3 games. Like, she's got something cooking down there. That's a team that nobody right now wants to see. And this team is even more dominant than the Aaliyah Boston team, than the Asia Wilson team. Like, that South Carolina team right now, they're fun, fast, long, athletic, and very entertaining because they got a great freshman right now that has been on 3 different highlight reels in 3 different games with some of her passes and her plays. Dawn's got something cooking and something real special down there. Caitlin Clark lighting it up from the outside. Paige Becker's being back. It's Tara Vanderveer doing what she's doing at Stanford. It's a lot of parity in women's college basketball, but I think the team right now that's head and shoulders above everybody is South Carolina and what Dawn Staley is doing down there.
All right, Gabe, let's switch gears and let's talk about men's college basketball because right now we got the Maui Invitational going on as Kansas is going to take on the Silver Swords of Chaminade. And Chaminade got put on the map 41 years ago when they had the biggest upset in probably sports at the time. 1982, they knocked off the number 1 Virginia Cavaliers led by Ralph Sampson, 77-72. This was an NAIA school. Gabe, you and I are familiar with NAIA schools. We both went to Freed-Hardeman. When an NAIA school upsets an NCAA Division I school, it's not that big of a deal because I think the gap has changed a little bit. You remember back in 2021, the Freed-Hardeman Lady Lions upset North Alabama. This was a team in the Atlantic Sun. I mean, is it a big deal nowadays when an NAIA school upsets a big blue blood, a Power 5 conference?
It's still a huge, considered a huge upset when any NAIA Division II, low D1, when anybody upsets a major Division I or mid-major Division I team. Go back a few years ago when UMBC defeated Virginia in the NCAA tournament to be the first 16 seed to knock off a 1 seed and an overall 1 seed at that. Go back some years when John Calipari lost I think they lost to a Division II team.
Yeah, they lost to Gardner-Webb.
Yeah, and Gardner-Webb at the time wasn't what Gardner-Webb is now. So it's always going to be considered an upset. Just last night, Jackson State out of the SWAC went to Columbia, Missouri, and beat Missouri out of the SEC. Wow. So, and Jackson State is a HBCU, and that's a huge upset. So you play these games, but anything is possible. I've seen Tribeca women's basketball, a Division II school here in Nashville, went on the road and upset Division I Austin Peay. So it's always a big thing because those schools schedule those schools to be easier opponents, and then they find out they're in a dogfight. So it's more for the little guy in this case, or the little person in this case, to get that win over the big school because you got a lot of players, NAIA, D2, D3 that had D1 aspirations and were slighted by a particular school, and they're taking, they're going out there and proving and showing, hey, you should have took a chance on me. And then with the portal now, the transfer portal being the way that it is, the gap between NCAA and NAIA has closed tremendously. It has closed tremendously because of the portal. You got NAIA teams getting a lot of D1 transfers. I'm talking like high D1 and mid-major D1 transfers. And you got D2 schools, D3 schools getting D1 transfers. So where it was when we were back at Freed, it's completely different now, because Freed right now has 6'10", 6'11". They got a 6'7", 6'7" wing. Like, they almost look like a Division I team.
Oh, Gabe, remember when Eric Jones transferred from MTSU? He was playing on Freed-Hardeman back in 2000. Several other players that could have played D1, Myrie Chapman, Jamie Norsworthy. I mean, they wanted to prove themselves at the NAIA level. And really, I was very impressed with Eric Jones in that 2000 season because he really stepped up. He was a great shooter. And I just wanted to throw that out there, Gabe. That really brought back memories, especially when we were covering Freed-Hardeman basketball in the early 2000s.
Right. And that was, that was when it started. But now, like I said, that gap has shrunk thanks to the transfer portal.
Gabe, as we are go ahead and continuing to move along on this show, I really appreciate you taking time, as I have Gabe Reynolds. He is the head girls basketball coach at Ezell-Harding Christian University out of Nashville. He just started their season, and Gabe, I know that you're focused on coaching right now, probably not paying attention to the NBA, but, the NBA season has started. There's not really a whole lot of eyeballs on the NBA until the games for Christmas. Once Christmas starts and we see those games, then the regular season will start. But they have this in-season tournament that is, some fans like it, some fans don't. The courts are just weird. But it seems like these NBA teams that want to win this in-season tournament, they're playing a little bit tougher, and then you have them taking the night off when they play a game that doesn't really matter. I mean, let's face it, all games matter, but do you think that this in-season tournament has gotten some extra interest in fans that are fans of the NBA that don't pay attention to the regular season this early in the season?
Nah, because everybody I talk to, they like, because of the way it's set up, you play the tournament games, and then the next night you're playing just a normal game. Like, nobody really knows which is a tournament other than when they put the court out there. So it still hasn't drawn the interest that they garnered and that they thought. And I really haven't paid much attention to the NBA. I catch the highlights here and there, but football season's still going on. Everybody's still watching football.
Exactly.
I think the NBA needs to start their season after the NFL season.
I actually think the NBA needs to start their season after Christmas. You remember that lockout shortened season when the regular season started on Christmas? I think people start paying attention to the NBA on Christmas and in January, February. That's really when the NBA needs to start. You being in Nashville, I know that the Memphis Grizzlies are really off to a slow start. Ja Morant is still suspended. He's served half of his suspension. There's 13 games into the season, just about half. They're 3-10. Steven Adams out for the regular season hurts, but I just don't think that they have completely gelled yet. I don't know if Ja Morant comes back is going to make a difference, especially as they're in the hole, and the West is absolutely stacked. You got Victor Wembanyama, who's as good as advertised. Chet Holmgren, I think these two are going to finish 1-2 in the Rookie of the Year voting. But as a Memphis Grizzlies fan, you look at Memphis. Are the Memphis Grizzlies fans panicking, or do they feel that once Ja Morant comes back, they'll start rattling off some games and maybe sneak into the playoffs as part of the play-in tournament?
We just waiting on 12 to get back. We just waiting on, once 12 get back, it'll be a whole different vibe, because that's the heart and soul of the team right there.
There's no question about that. I know they're missing some players like Dylan Brooks, but Marcus Smart was supposed to be this energy guy. I cannot wait to see Marcus Smart and John Morant in that backcourt. I think that Memphis will start getting competitive. As I pay attention a little bit to the NBA, and you look at the top teams in the East. I mean, there's no surprise, Boston, Philly. The big disappointment is got to be the Clippers. 4-7. That James Harden trade did not really work out. I mean, I know that the Clippers could figure it out, but I mean, that is absolutely shocking. You have all these future Hall of Famers, Gabe. I mean, you got Paul George, you have Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden, and they're 4-7. I can't explain it.
You got too many ball dominant people on one team. Everybody that you just named has to have the ball in their hand. They don't know how to play off the ball. James Harden, think about it. When he was in Philly and in Brooklyn and Oklahoma City and in Houston, he had the ball in his hand. When that was the reason why he left Oklahoma City in the beginning. Westbrook has to have the ball in his hand. Kawhi has to have the ball in his hand. Paul George, when he was in Indiana, has to have the ball in his hand. I mean, it sucks that, it's only one ball and 4 great players, but I hate to say it, but it's going to cost Ty Lue his job. Ty Lue is not going to make it through the season. Ty Lue has lost that locker room. He's lost that team. And, they made the trade, but it's on Ty. You're the coach for a reason.
Gabe, I'm so excited that you were able to take time out of your busy schedule to join me on the show. I hope you like the new graphic, as this is going to be on Facebook Live. I'll make sure to share it on my page. Just want to get the word out. I mean, you've been a very loyal guest for almost 2 years now, and it's really been fun having you on the show and your sports knowledge, talking about sports. And I know that you're starting basketball season, and good luck this season. I know that, we're talking about football, but we got high school basketball going on. I'm actually calling a girls' high school basketball game as soon as we get off the air. A team in Georgia that reached the Final Four. I mean, they are a public school. I know it's just a different level of play at the private school level, but I mean, you've done a great job in year 1, and good luck in year 2. And I know that you're going to get that team ready game time, and I just wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Appreciate it, man. Always a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me. And again, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody else.
And happy Thanksgiving to you, and I appreciate you once again being here on the Sports Beat. That was the head basketball coach of the Ezell-Harding Christian girls team, Coach Gabe Reynolds. I want to thank everybody once again for taking time and joining us on the Sports Beat. That is all the time I have here on the show, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.